Hi, I'm Cynthia, and today on IN2G SHOW, my subject matter is, can we separate the art from the art?
Hi, I'm Basil, and I'm featured on the IN2G SHOW where I'll be discussing why do men leave church.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. I am talking about risk-taking in IN2G.
Hi, I'm Jose. I'm here in the IN2G SHOW, and I'm here to talk about accepting getting old.
Hello, I'm Cynthia Selwyn, and you are watching the IN2G SHOW, and I have panel members on our sofa, as usual, to talk about the things that they want to talk about on this show. So who do I have right now for you to hear their conversation? Actually, let them introduce themselves. So who is it? It is, who are you?
Jose Orozco. I am a humanitarian and development worker.
And who are you?
Vanessa Bizzuto. I am a journalist and author.
And who are you?
I'm Basil, and I'm a web and graphics designer.
Thank you guys for joining me. So who am I going to go to today first? I think I'm going to go with Basil. So Basil, what is your subject matter that you want to talk about today?
Today, I'm going to be talking about why men are leaving church.
This is going to be interesting. So tell me about that. So when you say why men are leaving church, what are your thoughts?
Okay,
Regards to that?
yeah, my thoughts are basically we have a situation where our church is quite a lot of female, and we have a lot of men who are not really interested in church, or they're just leaving. So I'm thinking, so why are men are not attending church? And there's a number of reasons that I would like to share. One is a sense of belonging. Two, men like community. Three, men wants to feel empowered. One of the challenges that we have is our structure in terms of how our church is organized. And I believe our church is organized to target females.
Is that what you think?
I do strongly believe that our structure at the moment is not really geared towards attracting men. Obviously, I can understand why they structure it the way it is, because at the moment there's a lot of challenges within our churches. So the irony is that we've got a lot of females in our churches, but when it comes to the leadership element of our church, it mainly pastors. And so when a guy comes to church, we have a situation where if you're at the front, you get a lot of praise, but then a guy comes in, if he's not a singer, if he's not a teacher or a pastor or minister, he has nowhere to fit into the structure of the church. So, guys like to be empowered, they like to be encouraged, and they like to be praised. And as I said, our current structure doesn't kind of fit that.
Wow. What's your thoughts, Jose?
See, I never thought about it that way. And I think you have a point, whereas it's an unbalanced system where you have male leadership at all levels, from the general conference through each divisions. It's all men. But then, do not take this the wrong way, the worker ants, the people that get things done in church, are the women. Everywhere you go, you have women leading most important departments and women leading the activities. And they are the ones at the forefront. Like now that I think about it, most of the churches I've been to, women have been the ones, getting things done and making this happen.
Can I just, because it seems like this is a problem that is in terms of numbers across Christendom, across the board. And we've seen a decline in even just people just attending church across the board. But there is an aspect, like Islam seems to be growing with men. So what do you think what the reasons are for those things? Where there's a culture thing here.
Yeah.
Or is it a culture thing?
It's hard to say, because the growth of Islam also has to do with population growth, and where the places where Islam is growing, South Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, that has population growth, Nigeria, where there's a population boom, the Middle East, population boom, and the Christian countries have regressed in population, most of them. So that's one of the factors. But also, at the end of the day, do we want to catalog Islam as a men-friendly religion? And that's a
That's a very interesting question.
it's controversial, right? And is Christianity a women-friendly religion? Which 20 years ago, that would have been unconceivable thought, right? Because women were so oppressed and marginalized within the church and Christianity in general, you know. So
it's a good, you know what it is? Because I've heard some feedback. I've heard people that have gone down the path of Islam, from men who have gone down that path because they do perceive that Islam is a lot more, in terms of their structure and the system that is being put in place, is more friendly towards men rather than, you know, women.
What exactly do you mean, and do we mean by structure and friendly towards men? What can we unpack this? And if you say, because you said that and my mind went, okay, that's brilliant, but what exactly does it mean? Is it the role of men? Is it the authority? What do we mean by friendly towards men? And going back to what you said, oh, our church, our structure. Because if I understood you correctly, you say we are a church and it's mostly women, but run by men. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah.
And you said the problem has to do with, I think you said the structure, but I wonder, how does this impact
Why men are leaving? Okay.
I don't understand.
Okay, so basically, we got a situation where men, in terms of how we basically organize our churches. So if as I mentioned before, you know, men like to feel inspired, motivated, and elevated, and also masculine. So when we have a church that's set up in more feminine in terms of our services and our aim and our vision and our mission, you know, it doesn't quite fit in with the masculinity of men.
So when you say, Basil, when you say that it's a masculine structure that you're thinking about in terms of like the structure, what would be, and I'm asking you as well, how's that? What is a masculine structure in a Christendom that would make it more aimable to men, if we're looking at as a way of dealing with that as an answer?
So let's take praise and worship, for example. You know, it's like, I love you, Lord, type of thing. You know, very, you know, female, you know, type of lovey-dovey type of songs. And then you got some guys coming off the street, doesn't even know the songs, but we expect them to kind of fit in to that type of worship service. So, you know, and that's one of the things what I mean by the structure. So the singing doesn't quite, and some of the lyrics doesn't kind of fit in with the macho masculinity type of structure. Also, our missions that we do like homeless, charities, that type of thing, where guys want to be mission orientated, and they want to have a thing where they want to have targets, and church doesn't do that. They're like, okay, come for tea, come for coffee. Guys just want to out there to just do things, you know, and they get things done, you know, and they want to make sure that, okay, there's a goal, there's a target, there's a deadline, and they can go and accomplish that. Whereas, so that's what I mean by some of the structures that we have in our churches.
I might slightly disagree with you there, Basil, because I think there is a lot of negative masculinity that's still living.
That is a man saying oh my goodness!
Well, we're going to come to you.
I'll pave the way. There is a lot of negative masculinity things out there that, say my dad's generation or older generations have, that, you know, with the current social context is going everywhere in the Western society, which is a Christian society, which may go to Christianity becoming less friendly to men in that sense. And I think we do have to acknowledge the negative masculinity and encourage positive masculinity and embrace the role of men in church. Because I do agree that there is a lot of feminine aspects that have gone into the modern church, at least in the West, where men do not have a place. And I think if I would say I want to take the children's class in church, for example, I'll be frowned upon.
I think you should.
I
think it'd be amazing.
I think, I love teaching and I'm good at it, and I wouldn't care what people said about me. But if somebody was new, was trying to get, and the frowns and the looks they would get, I grew up in the church, and I have a sort of I don't care what people say mentality. But not everybody has that.
So that proves my point.
Yes, exactly.
When you say you disagree with me, but to me, you just actually prove my point about the structures.
Yes.
And the things in place that doesn't always accommodate men.
But that doesn't mean that there's the negative masculinity aspects of wanting to be validated and wanting to do things a certain way, that we can also say that's not right. Because I think when the whole aspect of church, in my opinion, is that church has become very building-centric. And I think...
Talk about that.
If we have more community involvement, if we have more outreach, more evangelism, in a way to give people the opportunity to do church the way that it was done Jesus' way, I think there would be more opportunity and less cornering of men to have to leave other church because there's nothing for them to do. So, because we're just so building oriented, and this might be an old take on gender roles. So, if you're watching, don't go at me.
Don't listen to him. Whatever comments you want to make your comments. But yeah, carry on.
And it's culturally, women are more homebodies usually, generally. So when you have a home or a building, women do tend to take a more powerful place
in that kind of structure.
In that kind of structure. When you go outside of a structure to the open world, men
flourish more. You think
flourish more.
Yeah.
But when you say there is like negative masculinity. Could you explain what are the negative masculinity within Christendom that you think have kind of like stifled or not been helpful?
So when you see all our leaders are men, the decision makers at the top level are men, the pastor is a man,
right?
And then you see all this manliness, and then as a man you go to your church and you're being told around by women. It's like, why am I being...
Is there a dissonance for you?
Yeah, so I think that's negative.
Right. So how do you think it should be? Do you think there should be a balance?
Yes, of course. I think, unfortunately, there's been a lot of tradition where it's been told that women should succumb to men in Christianity. And there's been passages in the Bible, and when I was growing up, you're the head of the house. You're the priest of your home, and things like that, right? That are, it makes you think that in a Christian structure you should be the man, right? That's not good. I think if you look at the early church when it was thriving, everybody was working together. Yeah. Everybody was, men and women, were going to the streets, were raising money, were building homes, were supporting everybody. Everybody was working together.
And you see Jesus breaking with so many of the gender stereotypes of his time and having women supporting financially his ministry. He's a Jewish rabbi and he has no qualms having women financially supporting that. So I think that's something interesting. But can I go back?
Oh yes, please. Because I want to touch back as well. Yeah.
I am thinking about the lyrics of the songs that you described as perhaps more feminine. And I just wonder whether this is a matter of personality or gender roles, because there are some of the songs, like I would call them the Jesus is my boyfriend songs. I dislike them. I am a woman, and I dislike the Jesus is my boyfriend song.
So that even more proved my point.
No. Wait, hold on.
Who wrote the songs though?
That's a fair point.
Oh,
many guys are.
Most.
So I just wonder whether we are talking about an issue of personality rather than an issue of gender. And furthermore, I want us to consider David, who wrote many of the Psalms. So he was a song lyricist and poet. And some of his songs are super emotional, and some of his songs are like, destroy my enemies. And I wonder whether in Christian environments and as believers, the problem, in my opinion, may have to do with the fact that we have become too PC, not too feminine, but too politically correct, to allow for prayers that are a little bit more biblical. Thank you so much. In which you go, I'm angry. This is unfair. I hate injustice.
Wait. Emotional.
Oh, yes. And this is something that is normally used to describe women.
Exactly.
So I'm so glad that you're saying that. You see, so I wonder whether what you are describing is a matter of personality and taste and not necessarily gender.
But remember
sorry, Bas, you respond.
Remember the whole idea is that men are leaving church and why.
Right.
And these are some of the issues why they're leaving church.
Right.
Or why church is not attracting them.
Yeah.
You know, so
Because what's happening, like going off from what you said, Basil, is the data is saying that they are leaving. Either they're not actually coming, and if they are coming, they're going. And at certain point, even within Christendom, they kind of leave maybe from 13 onwards. And so there is definitely, it's with any corporate, and I hate to use the word corporate, but I have to, because with any corporate organization, you have to look at your retention plan. The retention plan is just, recruitment and retention go hand in hand, and you have to have a strategy. Sorry guys. Because recruitment, you have to have a recruitment strategy, and you have to have a retention strategy. Because if you're going out and you're bringing people in and then you're losing them, it's almost like you've got like a bucket that you put water and they're just dipping out, and it's pouring out. So the issue is there is obviously something that is not being met within Christendom when it comes to men, and it's not just. I'm happy you mentioned the other countries, but there is definitely a data for the UK that is saying that as Christians we are losing the men, and they're not staying, or if they were brought up, they're going. And what is it that we need to do? So yes, there is toxic masculinity, as you talked about. However, there is obviously something wrong, because if you're not the musician, the pastor, the teacher,
where do I fit in?
Where do you fit in as a man?
And as a woman, I guess you fit just as again, if you're not a musician or a teacher, where do you fit?
And
For what, as a woman, you mean? Like,
I'm asking, what's the significant difference? I am agreeing with the problem. I am agreeing with the problem and the fact that it is a problem. I'm just asking, say that I'm not the traditional girl who'll be happy teaching children Sabbath school, right? Or I do love music, but say that I don't, then where do I fit?
It's the same question.
I think that there is more space for women. And this is something that I just want to mention is belonging.
Yes.
Women in church, they have their little groups. There's more women's groups. It's good, and then you get together for mission activities or for evangelism. There's more,
or women's ministry in that gathering, that sort of thing. Yeah.
There's more women community within church than men's community. So let's say, for example, I come to church, any average church in the UK, and it's happened to me. Who do I talk to? Like who's going to be my friend? And there's nobody. I'm my age. I'm 32 years old, with my international background that I could talk to.
That you can even connect. But the thing is, that's the thing. But then, does it? I mean, what Vanessa's saying? Vanessa's saying that same analogy that you've given, does it not apply to women? But the problem is, you see, even if it applies, Vanessa, to women, even if it's the same scenario, the data says that women are still staying and they're still coming in.
So I wonder whether if we are socialized as women with different set of skills that allows us to befriend people more. Probably. If that makes any sense. I'm not sure I'm making sense. I wonder whether it's that men, because of this process of socialization, have fewer tools in their toolkit to develop friendships, particularly after a certain age when they're not at school
Yeah.
or at football or whatever that is.
Most guys make their friends. So we saw a meme the other day with my wife is that men make friends when they're 15 at school, and they keep them for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So, and women, whenever, let's say, we go to a new church, they were more likely to make friends and see the community than a guy is. And also, something that's very important, if I was a single person, am I going to find a wife in the church, a partner? And hopefully none of my friends are watching this. I have about 25 friends from my youth that are in their 30s, and they're single women. But the men have gone and married outside of church.
Wow.
So, and you're going to follow, as a good husband, I don't know if you're married,
No, I'm single.
You're single?
So
well, if you're married,
I can understand.
I was told, you have to do what your wife tells you, so... Right? So, you tend to lean towards your wife. If let's say she's from another church or whatever, you tend to... So...
Because in my culture, they say that the dominant person, not in terms of like being the head or anything, but your house is like what we talked about, the structure of a home is a woman. Yeah. And so, like you said, it's not that the man is not still leading or you're not in partnership, but the home setting and the way things are, you tend to either go to your wife's church or your wife things and stuff like that, and that's what
the wife's family.
The wife's family.
Yeah.
It's
and
like
then your friends become your wife's husband, your wife's friend's husband.
Yes.
And that's the reality of society. And if you go, so if when I go to church, let's say this, and if I was a new person going to church, and I have nobody to hang out with, I have nobody to share things with.
And the tendency and the cultural training not to share as openly as you would if you were socialized differently.
And then on top of that, there's no space for me to engage and participate.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I unfortunately have some toxic masculinity traits that some things that people say or do rub off the wrong way.
Yeah.
Just with the first one, I'm already out the door. With the other two, I'm never coming back.
100%.
I've got some suggestion of how we can improve the situation.
Okay. What are some of your solutions?
And one is, I remember for me personally, let me just give an illustration. For me, I wasn't a singer. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a pastor. And I asked myself, how do I fit in within a church context? What will keep me staying? And because we give such high profile responsibility to those who are these type of talents in our churches, persons who are behind the scenes don't really get a look in, or they don't see as important, even though they are important roles. So for me, it wasn't until someone said to me, please help me out with the audiovisual. Then I said, I can see where I can be of use, and the role becomes elevated and seen as important. So one, we need to create space for behind the scenes type of roles in our churches and make sure those roles, if men participate in those roles, are elevated and seen as important. So for example, we've got deacons in our churches. It seems like a little role, whereas look at it, biblically speaking, it's as high profile as the elders and the pastors. But in our churches, these are behind the scenes type of role, so they're kind of like not seen as important. So men want to be seen, to feel value. So we need to start to value our different behind the scenes role. Secondly, I think we need to ensure that we have a strong mentoring program within our churches.
Yes.
Same way like the Nation of Islam, the Islamic, they have a strong mentoring role. And I don't mean mentoring role as, here's a Bible, here's a track, go and find your way. Hold your hands and go through the process with them.
Friendship.
Precisely.
Yes, I think mentoring has been seen as this, I am the mentor, you're the mentee. No, it's friendship. It is friendship. And you're right. If I have a friend is, it's so important to people. And if I go to a church and the person who's leading the way is a friend, I'm gonna stick around.
Yeah.
But if I see somebody that's is just there for okay, so today we've read this chapter, and the next week you read the other chapter, and then we'll talk about it. And I'll pray for you, friend. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I got one more suggestion, and this is probably a philosophy that I've been thinking about for many years. Connect 4. And Connect 4 is basically the 4th dimension of Christ. You've got social, spiritual, physical, intellectual. And I think when we bring, and this could apply for both gender, but especially I think it can apply for men, where if we invite the men into our churches, we need to ensure that they're connected on more than one dimension. So if the spiritual is what was the factor that brings them in, whether it's through the music or through Bible study, if they don't connect on more than one of those dimensions, like on the social level or on a physical level or an intellectual level, then if the reason why they came in the first place was on the spiritual or the social, if for whatever reason that kind of die, they're gone because there's nothing else to fall back onto. So it's critical that we connect on more than one level, because there are times when the spiritual is more stronger, the social might be more stronger, and so we kind of feel, so for me, I need to ensure that we have a structure where people are connected on more than one level, because if the intellectual is what bring it to church or the social, and if that's not happening, we all know if we go to church where the music is good, and then when it's not good, it's like, the church is dry, church is boring, because that's what connects you. But then if you are there for more than just the music, and then you're able to socialize or fellowship, then you know that, if the music is not great, then I know something else. So I think that's something that's key for us to develop a sense of Connect 4.
And it kind of connects with what you were saying about not being building center, but community center,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
It's always been.
Yeah.
Right, thank you for that solution. Oh, I'm really excited now. So who do I go? No. I'm going to go with you.
Okay.
So what is your subject matter that you want to talk about today?
So I want to talk today about accepting getting old, accepting aging. Yeah.
Like,
Can I leave that?
This should be with a warning before you join us.
Right.
It could trigger you.
all right, let's talk about it. So when you say that, what do you mean? Explain.
So I've done sport all my life. So ever since I was a little kid, one of the things I bonded with my dad was playing sport. We would take me to the park, play football, play basketball, roller skate. So I was just always been very active.
Right.
And then when I got older, I started doing organized sports. So I've done athletics. You call it here in the UK, right? Athletics?
Yes, that's right.
Athletics. And then I've done American football. I've done football/soccer, depending on what you call it. So I've done sport,
Right.
and
Throughout your whole life.
throughout my whole
basically.
life.
Right.
Even now, I still play.
Oh, okay.
I still play a little bit of all three. And in sport, when you start getting to your 30s,
You feel it.
Some sports, some sports you don't even reach the 30s.
Yeah, your 30s. That's the end of your playing
Correct.
career. And like I said, I'm 32, and you start to feel, hey, I can't keep up with the young people. Like I have the skills, but I don't have the body for it. And you start getting the back pains. You get an injury. It takes longer to heal. So recently I was watching a show on I think it's Disney. It's Chris Hemsworth, Limitless, and so he goes, he's going through the same thing, getting old. He's a superstar. He has this body of a Greek god, right? He's super built, but he started to face his aging, and he goes on a journey where he starts seeing what he can do to extend his health life, because you could get old but not in a good way. How can I get old healthy?
Yeah.
And he does multiple things, which maybe if we have time we could discuss later. But at the end, the final episode is embracing getting old.
Wow.
And age, it's a beautiful thing. Aging is a natural process that instead of fighting it, you have to embrace it. So just to finalize the thought, one of the last things they do is they put on a suit on him. And it's a suit that limits his movement, limits his hearing, limits his vision.
He's so scary.
Yeah.
So he was trying to walk around, and he was trying to fight the suit, And at the end, he's like, okay, let me just adapt to what I can.
What I cannot do.
Wow.
And then at the end, his wife, Elsa Pataki, is also an actress, they age her. So he gets to see his wife as she would look later in life, potentially.
Wow.
So, you know, just...
That's
So for me, that impacted me. The whole series impacted me. I started making some changes, tried anyway, to make some changes in my life. But it's just, how ready am I to accept that I'm just going to get old? Or I have 1 or 2 gray hairs now, which my wife loves to point out, that I have gray hairs coming on. You know, how am I ready to embrace it and understand that, you know, this is life?
Yeah.
Wow. So Vanessa.
I'm just amazed by the choice of topic. Thank you so much. And a couple of things came to mind as you were talking, and without trying to get too deep or too philosophical, can I? I think accepting aging has to do with accepting death. At the end of the day, accepting the fact that I'm getting old is accepting the fact that I'm not eternal. And though it's scary, it is also a blessing in that, okay, since I have limited choices and limited time on this planet, let me make wise choices, you know? And we also do live in a society that glorifies youth and beauty. And as a woman, getting older has a whole new level of stress.
That's a whole market for it.
Yeah. So people can sell all sort of things to you. I do want to say one more thing that came to mind as you were speaking. Some time ago, I was talking to a counselor, and she's very wise. And so she was telling me, you know, Vanessa, when you're making important decisions in life, you may want to call people who can help you, but not necessarily real people, but like imaginary people in a way. And so say, call an imaginary figure that will protect you. Call a wise figure that will guide you. And she said, okay, think about a wise person that would guide you. And I was thinking, who could be? And I thought about my twin sister, age 80 or 90.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, and so now when I'm making important decisions, I kind of bring to the decision making my twin sister as an 80 or 90-year-old person. What would she say? She's wise, generally speaking, but what would she say with all these years of knowledge and her unconditional love for me? And while I'm not saying I'm not scared of getting old, it does help to say, hey, her value will not diminish. In fact, in this exercise of decision making, her value increases precisely because she's older and has more experience to share with me.
Wow. Wow. I think that the more you plan and prepare for the future, the more you'll accept getting older. And I think sometimes when we don't plan and prepare, then we find it's more scary because we're not too sure of, and because we become uncertain of what the future holds. So I think that to overcome the challenges is to prepare and to accept, yes, we're going to get old, we're going to die, but at the same time, you need prepare and make plans in advance. One of the things that I've learned during the lockdown, we run a online men's Zoom meeting every Monday.
Go building community.
One of the things we realized that a lot of men want to feel a sense of security, you know, and so we bring in a lot of people who talk about retirement and you know, the aging process and making plans in terms of like wills and all of these type of things that we don't talk about when we're younger, you know, and you know, financial advice and things like that. So because finance is probably one of the most important thing that people think about when they're getting older. Am I going to be financially secure? Am I going to be healthy? Or if I'm not healthy, do I have the funds to make sure that I can, you know, live a life that's worth living? And I think that if you can prepare and plan, especially from a financial standpoint, that will help to accept the aging process, you know, or the idea that getting older.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm in total denial about getting older. absolute denial. You know, my husband would be like, yeah, you're getting older. I don't know what you're talking about. You're getting older. I'm not getting older. And I will call it a positive dissonance against that. So I'm a total, no, I'm not. And no, I can do it and I will do it and it's going to happen. And yeah, that's how I kind of deal with it. It's really bizarre because I don't have a dissonance to death in terms of, well, you mentioned about the fact that I'm going to die one. That always is real. And I accept and I know it's going to happen. But the process of getting to that point, and that's because I don't think I associate that with death because of
being old.
Instead of being old. I don't see that as the connection because I know that there's younger people that are dying and there's older people and everybody's dying at different times and different stages. Yeah. So I think I've kind of had that sort of been taken away from me, that my connection. However, I'm a total there's things that I can't even say I can't because it's for me it's like power in my words. Yeah. I'm very much focused on enjoying and being myself as I am and keep going as I am as long as I can. I've started going to the gym now. I haven't been for years. I'm doing boot camp, things and even though I might not do everything that everybody's doing, I do what I can. Yeah. And it doesn't discourage me from going ahead and doing these things, if that makes sense. Because if I let my thoughts and the way that I think of myself is my attitude is Cynthia, you're still a young bee. Just keep it moving. You got this. And that's just my mindset. And I don't know what it is. When I've seen my friends, they've said, Cynthia, you're looking younger every day. I said, go and tell my husband that.
No, but I think that is the key. The key to aging is just because you're aging doesn't mean you're getting older. Just because your years are passing by, that doesn't mean you have to stop doing the things that you enjoy. And simple things, exercise. You go. I don't know if you heard the blue zones, right?
Oh yes,
the blue zones. Yeah. Everywhere you have blue zones, people exercise, and that's just walking sometimes. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to stop exercising. No, just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to stop having a sex life.
100%.
Just because you're getting older doesn't mean you can still enjoy traveling and things like that.
And also, just because you're getting older, it doesn't mean you don't have a laugh and smile.
Exactly. you get grumpy. You're like, so
it's my age. That's why no, let's
exactly. So at the end of the day, it's something we can't control. Getting older. But what we can control is what we do. Financial planning, exercising, the right mentality. We can't control those things, and it's at the end of the day, nobody can stop us from living young, despite being in 80s, 90s.
But I think it's because people label certain things as young and some things that are older. Yeah. And I think I don't label it. In my life, I've never perceived any specific thing as old or young. I just do what I'm doing. If I'm going to go to sauna or steam or anything, I'm just doing that. If I'm traveling, I will just be making jokes in the house. I will, when I see people doing dances, I try to learn those dances. And I don't label it as anything. I mean, there's a saying of is it mutton dressed as lamb or something, or lamb, whatever it is, they give you this label that there's certain things that you shouldn't be doing, or because you're getting older, or you are an older person. But I think obviously in you have to manage it, but at the same time, for me, in my mind, I can do all things. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? That's just how how I live.
And you can. And the thing is that you can. There's the show's called Limitless because there is no limit to what you can do. And of course, you have to be careful.
Yes.
American football. There's people on my team who are 50s, borderline 60. And you're like, okay, I'm not going to be playing a contact sport that far into my life because physically the toll is going to be high.
Yes.
But there's nothing stopping me from doing athletics until I'm older. There's nothing stopping me. I might have my knees might hurt, but then my heart will be healthier. So, and that's another thing. Sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice to be healthy and to be youthful in your old age? Because the food we eat,
100%,
the environments we put ourselves in, the stress that we manage, everything that's around us, am I willing to sacrifice that? You know, I don't like sleeping early. You know, I say it's genetics because my grandma's the same, my dad's the same, but I just don't like it. I'm an owl. But if I want to live longer and healthier, I need to sleep earlier. You know, I love cold showers, so that's easy for me. But are you willing to take a cold shower in the UK?
Yeah. Do you know what? I've got an answer. I've got an answer to that.
Yeah.
You know, just go sauna and steam. You can do cold showers, and that's what I do.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. I have cold showers now. I mean, when I first started, I was like, "There's no way I'm touching that cold water. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go into the sort of. They've got like other showers that are like more lukewarm, so it's not completely cold, but it's like warmish. And so, but now I build up myself where I can do cold showers. I go into the steam. I go into sauna and I'm really, really hot, and then I just go and I just run in there and I just do it. So it's about finding ways, like you said, lifestyle. Also, there's other things like if you have to think about relocating, it might be that maybe UK is not the best place for you in terms of your growth and your health and where you need to be. Think about other countries. I would always, I think about those type of things because for me, I don't think it's about just being in one place and thinking this is it. It's about thinking outside of those things as well, like you said. And I would say to you, not just about the foods, but also supplementary, like supplements, things like, you know, vitamins and selenium and vitamin D. You know, try to do those type of things, but make that as part of your lifestyle rather than something that you have to do outside of yourself. So, because I take supplements like now once a week, and I give it to my kids. But I've done my research enough to find out the type of supplements you should be taking, not just those other stuff that's just off the shelf. I'm really investing. Like some of the bottles, like £30, and like these little bottles, I'm just like, how is it £30? How? But they are incredible, and they give you literally. You know, when I give it to Kofi, my husband, he's just like, babes, I just feel like I'm limitless. I think. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because it's impacting, but you have to do the work. If anything, you've got to do the work. I mean, Basil, you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to go back to professional sports athletes whose career, as you was talking about, finished before they're 30. And I can see for some of them, if they haven't planned and prepared well, or they don't have the right team or individuals around them, they'll be thinking, okay, I finished work at, in terms of my career, at 30, I still got another potentially 60 years ahead of me. What do I do? And I can see for them, for some of them, they can feel accepting getting older might be a challenge. And I'm thinking that that could be part of the reason why you need to make sure you got like long-term planning or short-term goals and medium-term goals, because if you go through life just going day by day without any vision or goal, then for sure you're going to have a problem accepting getting older, because you know you don't have a vision or you don't have a mission in life or purpose beyond just your career goals.
But can I just ask you a question? I'm going to touch on that. Sometimes when people do have those visions and have those plans and they don't manifest, that can then do the opposite effect of then you feel like, do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. So how
because there's always going to be some uncertainty. There are things you can plan for, and there are things that will happen, and you need some emotional flexibility, you know, tolerance to uncertainty and tolerance to disappointment, so that you can actually handle that.
100%. Yeah, because I'm thinking sometimes some of the anxiety that might come from that is the fact that I have made these plans, short term, long term, and for some people, and they're like, well, I'm not meeting those things, and I am. Then it's like almost like they feel like time is running out. You know, they've got between this time and this time, and they're not, and that can then force them to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not making, or I'm not hitting certain milestones that has been probably put into the system to make people feel like, because I'm not hitting these milestones, I'm not as worthy, or I'm not as accomplished, even though they are, because, you know, sometimes I think people underestimate the impact they have with just, even if it's just with one person they might have met. And people don't understand that they want to sometimes have this, I've got this long career and I've done this and I've done that. But actually sometimes, you know, some of the most meaningful and impactful thing is maybe a word that you said to someone. Yeah. I've come and met somebody in my park, like I spoke to years ago, 10, 15 years ago, and they said to me, and in fact it's happened to me twice now, they said to me, Cynthia, you know, you said something to me, you said, you know, stop throwing pearls to swine. and just get on with what you want to do. And she was, that changed my life. And I can't even remember saying that to them. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's been people come up and they say this to me 15, 20 years, and it has such made an impact on their lives that they're doing certain things that they're doing because of that specific thing. So I think people need to really think about, it's not always the grand things of, I'm now maybe a director here, or I'm this, or I've got the house, or I've got the car, or I'm married. But actually, your soul purpose and your inner self, you know, because and
that ties perfectly with something I was thinking, because you were talking about aging and your body maybe not reacting the same way, which is a reality that happens to all of us. But
yourself.
Except Cynthia. but I wanted to say that there's also, at least for me, I can see in myself and in others a development. I can see myself healing, and I like myself now way more than I did in the past. And so it's not just the outside accomplishments, but when you're talking about aging and growing, I'm like, I'm more tolerant. I'm more open-minded. How wonderful, you know, to learn to appreciate that as well.
Yeah,
and I think what we also have to recognize in terms of not to avoid those type of disappointment is to make sure that you understand why you're doing what you're doing. So is it because of parental pressure, societal pressure, or peer pressure, cultural pressures? Because, you know, if you're a certain culture, there's certain expectation. By 45, make sure you should have X, Y, and Z accomplished. Whereas if you start to do it for yourself, then you start to accept, you know, if there's any failures, or I don't like to call them failures, I like to call them challenges. You know, so, you know, if there's any challenges, you know, then you know that, you know, I'm doing it for me, not because I need to please someone else's expectation. And I think that's so critically important in our lives, that we ensure that we know the reasons why we're doing what we're doing and for whom.
100%. And I think it goes even when you mentioned about the different reasons. Sometimes it could be a religious reason, because sometimes it's not even a cultural thing or family thing. It's because the religion's environment that you're in, that's what's expected of you. Because I think sometimes there's a separation of that. Because you can have your culture, but then you can have a religious culture alongside that. And sometimes, you know, sometimes they butt heads at times, you know what I'm saying? But other times they have an impact on us more than even our own culture and our family and friends. And I wanted to touch more on what you said, Vanessa, and I was actually thinking about this, that sometimes it requires us to do the shadow work. I call it the inner work. It's called the shadow work. There's things within us that we need to work on, you know, that has not been managed. Maybe there's traumas within us that we have to work on. That age brings about a flourishing and an understanding of self and a respect of our own self. Because when you respect your own self, it does really show. And sometimes age gives you that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and I think just to finish my thought is, you have to be inward looking. You have to look at yourself, you know, emotionally, physically, see what's there, but also not be afraid of asking for help.
Yes.
Because
wow.
I've done sport in my life, but I also know there's people who know more about taking care of the body than I do. So I know a lot of things. I know what I need to do to get myself ready, but there's people you should listen to. Emotionally, if I have issues, if I need to talk to somebody, I need to talk to somebody. And I think, unfortunately, within religion, Christianity, that's sometimes frowned upon, because Jesus is there for you and God is there for you, so you don't need anybody else. That's, you know, yes, but we also need to talk to people and discuss, go through the processes. So, like, you be willing to open yourself up to others so that they can help you and reach those goals and accept certain things that you're not necessarily be willing to accept on your own, because sometimes you just don't want to talk to yourself about certain things, you know, like
100%.
yeah, but
the thing is I totally get what you're saying, but sometimes, because I'm a very forthright kind of person, I would just I would talk to anyone and I would ask them questions, and sometimes they'd be like oh, you're triggered. I can see sometimes they look a bit triggered, but I will persevere, because it's not out of malice or being messy, but sometimes there is barriers where people feel like they can't have that kind of conversation. I'm a friendly person and I want to have that conversation, because you never know. I might know somebody that I I can say, oh, well, maybe I can hook you, because I like that sort of thing. That's my thing, matchmaking. Oh my gosh, I can do that all day long. I love stuff like that. But if you don't know me, you might think, oh, why are you asking? Why are you saying? Because that's how I'm going to be able to get to know you. If I don't talk to you, how am I ever going to understand and know you? And so at the same time, I think people need to understand that when people are coming to talk to you, don't be like, I'm not talking to you, she's been abrasive, or she's been be nosy, or she doesn't answer, oh, that's a label. Be open, because that's what's going to allow you to be able to connect and meet and do things.
But I think there's also a need for churches to provide information to its members about where they can get the help that they need.
Yes, and can I comment on that? Because you were talking about this and saying there is no shame, and I completely agree. Just like when you have a toothache, you go to the dentist, and there is no shame. You pray.
Even if he's not a dentist, it's
you pray, you read the Bible, and you go to the dentist.
Any dentist.
Any dentist. The best dentist you can afford. The same happened with your soul. If you find yourself with patterns of behavior that you cannot break free from, you find yourself dealing with anxiety, you find yourself feeling depression or whatever, you go and get help from a professional therapist, and there's no shame in that. And not doing so actually is spiritual bypassing. It's thinking that praying and reading the Bible will prevent you or somehow save you from doing the work. And I want you to think about the story of Jesus resurrecting Lazarus and getting there, and he does the miraculous part, right? But he gets humans to do the work. Get rid of the stone. When Lazarus came out, get rid of the thank you. You know, like, you are supposed to do your part. So there's no shame. You need help. Go see a therapist.
I love that.
We need to know where the therapist is, because unfortunately, some people don't. If you've been in a Christian setting, sometimes in a community, you're blocked off from professionals from the outside. So, or even within, you just don't know who to go to. So I think we need to be better at letting people know, signposting where the help is.
In my local church, if you go to the toilet, they have posters, all kind of posters. So you need counseling here. There's violence at home here. So and it's a really cool place to actually do that, because it's a private place where you can just quickly snap a picture of that without having to explain to anybody else.
Excellent. That's really excellent.
I think too often we say, oh, let's pray about it. As the first point protocol.
Praise it. Let's praise it. Let's just sing songs and let it come over us.
When you have you got a physical issue where there are mental challenges, like, oh, let's just pray about it and just leave it. Are you thinking, I'm still struggling here?
Yeah. And you feel worse because now you feel like a bad Christian.
I call spiritual abuse.
I cannot pray my toothache away. Maybe if you're in a situation in the middle of nowhere and you pray, God will miraculously, I'm not saying God cannot do that, but in a normal setting, God is not going to, He expects you to do your part of the job.
That's right. It's a partnership.
If you look at Jesus' method, he deals with the person first, the needs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then the spiritual comes afterwards. But when we do it the other way around, we'll say, let's just pray about it.
And you have to prepare the field.
That's right.
You pray for rain, you need to prepare the field.
And put the seed in there.
Yeah. You can't just be like, God, I want all my vegetables to grow.
Do your thing.
We will be able to accept getting hold, because we'll make the preparation.
100%.
There you go.
100%.
Yeah.
Right. So on that note, Vanessa.
Yeah.
What is your subject matter?
So I've been thinking a lot about decision making and risk taking.
Ooh.
Because
You're speaking something.
yes. Because here is, I'm gonna be really honest. I think that because of how I grew up, and because I grew up in a context with very little, I was kind of like prepared for being super cautious, which has its benefits, but not necessarily prepared for take that risk, And so I wonder if in general, as a culture, we are a little bit risk adverse to the point of justifying not taking risks that are needed and are important in the name of humility, in the name of no, have more practical dreams, no, And so I've been doing a lot of soul searching in this matter. And I am starting to believe, without believing in being a kamikaze or anything like that, there are moments in life where not taking the risk is the greatest risk. There are some moments in life, and I'm not saying that you should be reckless, but there are some moments in life where not pursuing your dreams, not asking yourself what you want, is not spiritual, but the opposite of it. It's some sort of, I'm checking out of life. I'm just going to go with emotions, keep doing what I'm doing, and pray instead of going, well, actually, I need to improve my CV. Actually, I need to apply for a different job. Actually, I need to move to another country. Actually, I need to take that risk. And I will even say that sometimes, at least for me, we're super scared of taking risks and super scared because we think that one wrong decision will ruin the plan of God for us, because we see the plan of God for our lives like a minefield, right? Instead of being something organic and beautiful like a river or a garden, we see it as a minefield. So one wrong step, no matter how carefully you plan, no matter how much you pray, no matter how honest you were, one wrong step and poof, your life is a disaster, right? And I think it comes from a very wrong picture of God as this horrendous being. And so as we heal from that and we realize actually God is loving and is kind and His will and His love is far more powerful than any mistake I could ever make, that actually empowers you to take greatest risks, even for the kingdom of God. You know, you go like, I can start an NGO, I can start a new program or something, because even if I fail, that is not a fail. That doesn't say something about me in terms of my value or my character. It just says something in terms of this program. I know who I am, and so I am way more empowered and willing to take risks.
What do you think of that?
So I'm probably the worst person to talk about this thing because I've always gone for it.
Really?
Always.
I so need to learn from you.
Wow.
A little bit too much sometimes.
Right.
But God will provide, and that's always, and I've been able to go for it because I've been blessed to have a family that a very big safety net.
Yeah.
So
you have your
support.
So I know that if things didn't work out that I was trying to do, I could always just go back home and reestablish myself. Yes. But I've always gone for it because God has proven to me over and over again that He will provide, and everything that I've done, I always knew what I wanted. I always knew what I wanted to do.
Which is already an amazing blessing. For me, it took me forever to figure out what I wanted.
So when I was young, I knew I wanted to do, help people, and then that has changed a little bit, but then that's been God, correcting. But I've always felt like if you're going forward, you're doing the right thing for the right reasons, and you do your best, everything will work out. And that's
really like that.
And it's been my case.
Yeah.
And
But Jose, let me just be honest with you here. So
Yes.
you've been a risk taker. You've just gone out there.
Yeah.
Has there been times that you have gone out there?
Yes.
And it hasn't worked out?
Yes.
And how did you manage that? How did you navigate that?
Not well. Not well. Yeah, but my dad, I love him, and growing up, it's tough because he had a vision for me, then I had another vision. But one thing he taught me when I was young is being young hurts, and you have, the opportunity when you're young to make mistakes. You have to make mistakes. You're not going to learn if you don't make mistakes.
But how many parents say that to their children? I think that sets you up in the right, because how many parents tell the kid, go to school, honey, today, make many mistakes,
Let me not give my dad too much props because
I'm exaggerating.
no, but he taught me that. He said, make mistakes, and then when I was out there trying to find my way, he was like, but son, because as a father, you don't want to see your son struggle, you don't want to see your son like wandering about. He's like, well, what about you do the safe thing? And I was like, but you taught me how to. So he tried to, it was a balance. But at the end of the day, because I just, I want this, and this is what I need to do it, and I'm going to do it. And when it didn't go wrong, it was hard. But I'm glad it was hard because it hurt. And then when it hurts, when you get something that you want, you realize that you really want it.
Yeah. And that is beautiful. There are a couple of quotes in my mind that I'm probably going to misquote, but there's one quote that says that the greatest gift that we can bring to God is a human truly alive. And I think that sometimes we have fake humility. It brings to mind that interview ages ago at the radio when you told me about the kind of wedding you wanted, which could open a whole new chapter. But, you know, she had the emotional authenticity to go, this is what I want. If God is not going to give me this, that's fine, but this is what this is what I want. And I think some of us, because hope can be painful, we preempt that. And instead of saying, Lord, this is what I want, but not my will, yours, we go, no, I really don't want, you know what I mean? Whatever you want. And we don't go through the process of getting to know ourselves and taking those risks.
Look, at the end of the day, the worst thing that could happen to you is that it doesn't happen. And
the worst thing that could happen to you is that you never try.
Yes.
The worst thing that could happen to you is that you're successful in the wrong thing.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, the worst thing that could happen.
Because you can't.
You get in your comfort zone.
That's the worst thing that could happen.
No, but I'm saying the worst thing that can happen when you try is that it doesn't work out, and you learn something. You take the lessons, and you see why. And you know, sometimes it'll take a year, sometimes it took 5. But when you look back, you're like, that's why it didn't work out.
Yeah.
And when I was going to come to UK to study 4 years ago, I tried 5 years ago to come, and I was in a relationship, and I had my plans. I really wanted this, and God said no.
No way.
And I was it's like, God, you never told me no before.
Were you the sport brat?
Yeah. I was God's little spoiled brat, and I was like, this is not like you.
Why are you saying no?
Yeah, and I was like, but I've done everything
That you want me to
and
do.
he was like, no. And I was like, I was so devastated. And then, you know what? God was like, okay, let's take this year and let's do the following things. So, you know, I got closer to my family. You know, I had a lot of issues, you know, with like parents, like everybody else. You know, it was a good healing period. I developed new skills. I was more mature. Maybe that relationship wasn't the best thing for me at that moment. And I just shed a lot of weight that I need to shed. And then I had the opportunity to go be a missionary for a while. And it was just, looking back, I was like, that was perfect timing.
Wow.
And then, you know, I met my wife at university. I wouldn't have met her, you know,
The 4 years
because I was in a relationship, and you know, times, you know, it's God's time. He will provide. And because when I tried the next year, it was done in the things that didn't happen the year before, just boom, boom, boom.
Jose, you know what? It's wonderful. It sounds like a fairy tale, but for some people, they don't have that.
That's what I said. I'm the worst example. I said I'm the worst person to talk to this about, because like I am the worst.
So, there are people that are dealing, you know, and I want to throw it out there to any of you. There are people that haven't had that experience where they've tried and tried and tried and tried and tried, and then they come into a place where actually they're thinking, I'm getting older, or I've not succeeded in those things. How do you then...
Or not knowing, for me, actually, sorry, Cynthia, for me was like, I was listening to your story and thinking, that's brilliant, because your dad taught you not to be a people pleaser. He said to you...
So his own fault, because then I was a
Yeah, but he told you, this is what I want from you, but you do your own thing. Yeah. That is empowering your individuality, you know. And in some other cases, and particularly, I think this is my opinion as a woman, I could be wrong, but for women, you are taught to be a lot more pleasing, you know. And so for me, even discovering what I wanted was so hard, because I love people, I love traveling, but I was like, I could do this, I could do that. I remember the day I realized, and I said, Lord Jesus, I'm a writer, I want to write. Like it was like, you know, it hit me. And I'm like, and just coming to terms with a God who loves me enough to use me in that I love most, you know, and a God who cares more about me getting to know him and daring to try than being successful. That was a beautiful journey that also gave me a voice as an author that I wouldn't have today if it wasn't because I grew up with a completely different God and I had to discover, no, that's not the real one. So for some of us, it's a real journey of self-discovery.
I was going to say, a lot of people don't have that safety mechanism or
As
safety
well.
net.
Yeah.
You know,
And it's not, and you know what, when you say safety net, it's not just about financial, it's about even sometimes emotional.
Yes.
That
Yes. You're going to be loved and accepted when you fail, because we're going to see how brave you were.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's no rejection there.
that's the thing, because a lot of people, they don't necessarily have all the resources for them to make an informed decision. So some people, when they become very risky, they're like, I don't know if I got enough information to take that risk.
Yeah.
Or I don't have the right people or the right levers to pull in order to make that risk become successful. I remember a couple of years ago, for me, I did something like a psychometric test, and I realized that the result shows that I take a long time to make decisions. And for people, they find it very frustrating because they say that, you're a leader in your church, so when they come to you for an opinion, they want a decision straight away. Whereas I need to process.
Apparently, there are two types of decision-making people.
Yeah. So and they usually marry each other. Yes. And they usually marry each other.
So apparently, there are two types, right? There is the maximizers and it's the satisfiers. The maximizers want to see all the available options to take time and make a decision. That's the maximizer. The satisfiers, they go like, I'm going to say you buy a dress, Cynthia. You go to the first shop, you go to the second shop. At the third shop, you find a dress that you love. And you go like, that is enough. I don't need to go through the other 30 shops. This is the dress I want. That's a satisfier.
Yeah.
Because it's good enough, right? And there are pros and cons in both decision-making processes. With maximizers, what happens is sometimes we can have the tendency to procrastinate and hold on to decisions until everything is perfect. And the reality is that life is
exactly.
Never truly perfect. On the side of satisfiers, they might be that you jump into a decision a little bit too quick. And so we can obviously learn from one another, right?
Absolutely.
I didn't even know there was two shops. Like I got to the first shop and I'm like, why waste my time going to the second shop if this is the one?
And so they were saying, for instance, if you're on the maximizing side, which has perfectionistic tendencies, and they say, set yourself a deadline. If you go like, I have to make a decision, and I know my tendency is to check all the available options, okay, that's fine. There's strengths in that, but I'm going to set this deadline. And for satisfiers, they go like, you're going to jump running, you're going to hit the floor running. So for decisions that are more important, say you need to buy a house, maybe, pair up with someone who is a little bit more on the other side of the equation and intentionally tell yourself, I'm not going to make this decision for the next 10 days. I'm going to allow myself 10 days for this. And so...
Yeah, I think also when we talk about risk are these like personal risk or how do they impact others? Because like, for example, I feel like I'm a thrill seeker. I love the adrenaline rush when it comes to these rides. But probably career decisions, I probably take a little bit more time than I really need to. So I think different times, we might compartmentalize different things, areas of our life where we might say, I'm going for it. And, so probably for you, career-wise, you probably say, I'm going to take this, go to another country, no problem. But other things in our lives, we might take a while to make that decision. And I think, how does that decision impact others? Because sometimes, we take really risk and it doesn't impact us, but it impacts a whole heap of other people.
Pay the price.
Yes, so that's something that we also need to consider.
I think the one thing I would say to people, and it's that you have to know yourself. You have to really. A lot of people don't take the trouble to learn it themselves. Thus,
fake humility.
Yeah, you know what you want. Listen to yourself. Stop listening to everybody else. Take the time to work on who are you? Like, what do you want? Where do you want to be? And what they say, that 2-year, 5-year plan. Those things actually work. Like, picture yourself in the future. Where do you want to be?
Can I say something? I think sometimes wrong theology affects this. And this is why I keep talking about fake humility. I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to keep it short. I think that sometimes we tell people that they need to die to self and not be selfish, right? And we misinterpret this to say, oh, you can't have dreams. You need to be this amoeba,
Can mile.
Me can mile. And actually, I've been doing a lot of reading in this because I'm trying to develop myself. And actually, dying to self has to do with dying with selfishness, not dying to your individual dreams.
Yeah.
And because why would God bother to make you unique to then go die to it, you know? And so if you might be thinking, oh, that sounds too easy to be good. But actually, if you're a people pleaser, consider saying no to someone. Authentically saying no when you're asked something. It's going to feel like a death because you are dying to self. You're dying to the wrong, to the fake self, so that they can resurrect to the real one.
That's a shadow work. So on my matter, on that note, I'm going to talk to you about my matter. So my matter today is about, so I don't know if you guys have heard about people like R. Kelly, who's had like lots of drama and stuff. And I wanted to ask you, so there's people that still listen to his music. You've got stories like, for example, Elvis Presley. I don't know if there's a film that's just coming by. It's called Priscilla. And the story starts with how she met Elvis and she was 14.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of conversations about the artist and their art.
Yeah.
Can you separate the artist from the art? In terms of when the artist is not actually in line with certain their lifestyle or the things they've done has made an impact. And I want to push it further, guys. Not just artists, but for example, a pastor or somebody in the church, a politician, somebody, do you stop listening to someone's sermons if you find out that a pastor had infidelity? Do you say all the people they baptized, was that God? Or, because where do you do this? Is that something that we can really do?
Do you want to say something about it? I'm watching this one.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, go ahead.
My first initial thought is, yes, you can separate the two.
So you can listen to music still without actually... So
Yes.
for example, someone like R. Kelly, you would listen to music but say it's a separate matter.
Yes. And I think we do that all the time in our lives because persons' lives are not always the same. What I am today, the type of person I am today, might be a completely different person 15 years ago or 10 years ago. And the actions I took today, in the future, might be completely different. So we need to be able to see people for who they are and what they've done at that time in their lives. And I think that's part of the reason why we should be able to separate. Because can you imagine if we like to pigeonhole people to say, you are this, you are that. So for example, if you are a musician, only type of musician you are is just an R&B artist. Whereas, you might be interested in philanthropy. You might be a preacher, a pastor. You got so many other character traits, but we like to make sure that this is what you're known for. I think they call it class typing, for example. So we need to be able to see people not just as one thing, and that's all they are. So let me say that for now. I'll come back later.
Right, so what do you... Because you have to understand, so Jose,
Yeah, no,
guys,
I get it.
I'm going to just say to you guys, remember, are you going to carry on listening to the music and say, I'm separating that person from that art?
I want to go meta.
Right.
I'm going to go very meta. Are we all wearing clothes that we made ourselves? Or using...
That's true.
Are we using the phones that we built from scratch?
And how is ethically sourced?
Everything that this society that we live in, unfortunately, has, if you peel back the layers, you're going to find things you don't like. And we can't be hypocrites and say, R. Kelly's music, I can't listen to it because he did so many bad things. What about the bank you have your money in? What about the car you're driving? What about the, you can't...
Where do you draw the line?
Yes, like at the end of the day, we're hypocrites at all levels with the things that we want to look over.
So, Jose, what about if you went into a church building?
Yes.
And you knew that this pastor had done certain things that he wasn't in line with the Bible, for example, and there's been victims and so forth. Could you still sit there and listen to that sermon?
No, because at the end of the day, he shouldn't be a voice that's speaking to the public at the end of the day. He's giving a message. So, for this is the difference that I make with people is, let's say a movie. Harvey Weinstein produced most of the movies that came out in the 90s, the 2000s, probably still some movies out there. You know, you don't even know half the movies you watch until you see the credits and then you're, oh, this is Harvey Weinstein. Right, but this is a movie, you know, it's fake, right? It doesn't have any influence on anything. R. Kelly's music, he's talking nonsense most of the time. Michael Jackson, you know, the greatest.
Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley's, you know, great musicians, but there has no consequence in anything at the end of the day. In terms of, you know, might influence kids, but all the other R&B songs do the same thing, right? But a pastor or a politician, they're giving messages to large audiences that influence not only their opinions, but could influence policy and actions that are taken within a church. So, for example, if I know that a pastor has abused, let's say, his wife, and it comes and tries to speak about holiness,
the credibility might be damaged
the credibility, but also is dissonance. You're not being aware of, you know, the things that's happening. If a politician, you know, has stolen thousands of millions of whatever currency you might live in, you know, and then he says we need tax cuts, we need to increase your taxes because, you know, so there's a difference between the two, in my opinion, between people of influence and artists and phone builders and things. They're both wrong. Don't get me wrong. They're both wrong. But if I go to a church and I see that a pastor that we know is committing crimes that by the Bible and by, you know, the society, he shouldn't be there. He shouldn't be there, period.
But do you think that you've been a hypocrite in that scenario? Because you're saying that, because what about if that pastor, for example, or might not be a man, it might be a woman pastor, but have brought so many people to the kingdom and has done so much what would be perceived as good.
Yeah, see, I don't judge them. I'm not going to, like, that's between God and the person and the authorities and the person. But as an individual, I can choose what, you know, I consume or not. So if I know this, if a politician comes and tells me he's gonna vote for me, the greatest thing ever, and I know you're corrupt, you know, do you vote for them? Even though you know he's probably going to be good for the country. So in Colombia, I'm Colombian, and we have this town called Barranquilla, it's a city, and it wasn't one of the best cities in Colombia. It was, you know, middle of nowhere, nobody really. It's a port, blah blah blah. And this politician came to power, and he's really made the city better. He's increased the social spending. Everybody's living great in this city now. They've built a lot of things, but he's really corrupt.
So how do you make that separation?
Do you make the separation? And like I'm pragmatic, and I'm like, at the end of the day, you still vote for him over somebody else because the other person will be corrupt and not do anything. Yeah.
South America, you need to understand. My country's the same.
But in the UK too. Like, do you vote for Keir or do you vote for or for Rishi? Like, who's the better? Who's the worst?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I know they're both terrible, but I still have to make a choice.
Right.
So if I can make a choice with the pastor that I just don't listen to him because, you know, there's other churches around.
Right.
I can make that choice. Okay. And if I can buy a phone that's more ethical than another, I'll make that choice. So,
and equally with art, right?
Yeah.
I would say, because I do think art it's impactful.
Yeah, and like R. Kelly is not, he's not that great. But Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley.
I wasn't talking about that.
So I'm talking about the art, but the thing is, this is what I'm saying to you.
Yeah.
So some people saying I can't listen to Elvis because obviously he was running around with, or he was introduced or was talking to Priscilla at the age of 14, and there's obviously issues for them in that regard. And then you've got the R. Kelly scenario. And I gave you those two examples because I wanted to see if you're, like what you were saying and what you guys were saying, is there separate? Because people say, no, it doesn't matter. It's just his music is great, he's impacted, and it's maybe brought some people out. Some people said, you know, I've come out of depression from listening to some music, I've done this, I've done, obviously. But how do you separate and say, okay, that's just the art. That's not the person. So I can listen to it and still know that all these things may have happened, allegedly.
Maybe it's a personal decision. Maybe you need to go, I can do this, but I cannot do that. And go like, this works for me. I can listen to this person and it doesn't affect me. I'm not chewing on this or personality or whatever later on. And if not, you need to go, okay, other people can consume this, but not me.
Because I think everybody's a hypocrite. Everybody. So at the end of the day,
The message of this show is...
so at the end of the day, it's a personal decision.
It is.
Whatever you feel comfortable with, that you can tell yourself, you know what, I am comfortable with this, then do it.
But so Basil, you would say.
I think it comes back to the basic why I think we should be able to separate things is that, do you shoot the message or the messenger? Because, sometimes we like to think that history just never happens. And the truth be told, our history is littered with these scenarios. And you can go as far back as you want. There's always what I call life is full of contradictions. And, we very picky and choose what to promote and what to condemn in our society. So, for example, we might say, okay, let's condemn R. Kelly and let's whitewash and ban all of his music, never to be seen again. But yet still there's a nice Picasso painting on the wall, and we know some of the stuff that may have been done and is not really acceptable, but it's a painting, it's art, it's very, the intellectual, prowess that goes into that. We kind of like put different things on different levels. And that's why I'm saying that, society do separate things, but yet we pick our winners and losers when we choose. And that's the reality.
Because we're all hypocrites.
And also it aligns, our value system as well is all messed up. Yes. So when we choose to align certain things with our values, say, okay, for now, let me give an example. I remember when we started a mime group in our church. And this is why sometimes it's so important to know the reason why you're doing what you're doing. And I remember people saying you're devil worshipping, and you wear white gloves,
Wow.
So this is like the late
Okay.
90s. So this is new to the church. You can imagine in the mime group and the stepping and all of that business, and then we introduced Kirk Franklin music on top of it, and then people are like, oh, it's too much, so. Over years now, we'll say, man, that song, which was churchy back then, is playing at the introit in our churches today. And we kind of like overlook things over the years. And I think, even in the news recently, I think probably where, you got a lot of slave masters, where they build all of these institutions and they want to change the name of the roads and the street or whatever building that is named after these persons. How far back do you go? Do you kind of like say, okay, this person, was a bad person because he was a slave master, and the building and the school or the institution or the name of the road, do you kind of rename it, call it Brook Street?
But the street is already made. So do you not go on the street? So like if an architect was accused of doing atrocities, do you not go over the bridge?
But there's a lot of people want
see, that's the problem with society today. I think one of the problems with society. There's many problems. One of the problems with society is that we try to put so we're talking about art. You just brush over paint brushes and just cover it up, and you will forget about it. No, at the end of the day, look. When we see the world that we live in, it's a world full of pain and suffering, and people are people. Nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. So, the corporations are greedy, destroying the environment. We, with our actions, we're doing the same. At the end of the day...
Live and let live.
No. At the end of the day, you have to look at the mirror and say, what can I do to help the world be a better place? And how can my decisions help others, be better? And, for example, let's say Michael Jackson, right? That's my example because I love his music. I'm not even going to lie. And I think he is the greatest pop artists of all time.
I
right?
second that. Yeah.
So for me, it's me listening to Michael Jackson having a negative impact on those around me. It's me listening to R. Kelly gonna, hurt the sensitivities of those around me. And if it is, I'm not gonna do it because
But people might feel that you're promoting his music and your value system might be not right.
And also, they might say that you're now contributing financially towards that person's pocket where they feel like you shouldn't be. It's almost like when people go on a strike and say, we're not going to deal with you, you're not going to get no more money because you've been a naughty person, and as they say, and that's it. But if they see that you're outside of that and you're going and you're still consuming and still putting money in their pocket, they think, well, you're being...
Yeah, and I'll say to them, let me see your phone. Like, just like if I'm in my home, right, and I could watch, all the Weinstein movies, that's me, and like, sure, am I the only one watching these movies? You're watching these movies even without knowing. And so it's like, okay? So if you're ignorant about it, does that make it okay? So, like, if you listen to, let's say, Jay-Z song and R. Kelly's, featuring, so do you not listen to the Jay-Z song?
Well, actually, R. Kelly's got some gospel music, and there's some songs that he's actually written that people don't even know that he's written. So, when you draw the...
And like, let's say the pastor. Okay, the pastor may be featured in an episode of 3ABN, and do you not watch ABN because they had him on 10 years ago? Do they have to delete the episode even though it was a good episode?
And also, there might even be like sermons that you really loved and stuff. Would you stop listening to the sermons now that Vanessa, what's your thoughts?
She's been strategically quiet. Like, come on.
I'm trying to see this one out, guys. Don't blow my cover.
I've got a thought. Okay, while you're thinking, I've got a thought. Oh, you want to say something?
No, you go first.
Don't let her skip it.
No. Cynthia will come back to her. The thought that I have is this: where does let's say the person is alive, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say they created a heinous crime, and they were a famous, let's say, artist, musician, and they served their time.
Oh, so they've done their time,
right?
And they've come out.
And they come out. Do we continue to say that? Let us ostracize this person and ban them and put them away in the cupboard for the next 50 years because. If they already served their time, then, where does forgiveness comes in?
Society.
Yeah. Where does forgiveness come in? Where does, repentance? Where does, all of this? Where do we fit? So this is why, we say, what? Life is not as straightforward as we say. So people will look at me and say, how can you endorse this person? He does this. But then, if the person then say, what I've done in the past wasn't right, and I've done my time, I pay my due society, give me a second chance. Wow. Then people are going to say, what you done was way too bad.
And just another thought on top of that. Let's say you haven't committed a crime, but the things that you produce are bad for society.
That's the point I was making when I was talking about art. No, it's okay. The conversation went a different way, and I thought that's fine. Because what about the content that is explicitly bad? Because I do think art is incredibly influential.
That's what I think as well. It is very influential.
Yeah.
So people are. That's what I was thinking. When you said it does influence, like Michael Jackson has impacted you in your life through his music, has he not?
No, I like it. I don't think it has an impact on me. I like. Fair. But I know what you mean.
Do you know the same?
Yeah.
So sorry, Vanessa.
Yeah. No, that's one point. The other point that I was going to make, and the only point I can think of, is I think you have to draw the line yourself with your conscience. And I'm thinking about the story of the Bible of Daniel and the friends when they are in Babylon, in the University of Babylon, and they're being taught all kinds of things. They're taught divination, they're taught all kinds of strange things. And they decide to draw the line on diet. They could have drawn the line in a million different places. But when their conscience said, no, we're drawing the line here, God said, I can work with that. God said, okay, this is the line. And so I think maybe beyond clear, obvious moral values. In things like this, I think you need to draw the line when you go like, I'm not comfortable with this, and then God works with that.
I think my final thought is, just because somebody has committed crime, like you were saying, doesn't mean they don't have a chance at redemption. And just because somebody hasn't committed crime doesn't mean they're impeccable. You know, because unfortunately, I would say there's pastors out there and there's leaders in religion, in all religions, that are negative influences on society.
Even though they never made it.
I always use this example because it's jarring, and is, if you were to choose between these two people, one person is a vegetarian, works with children, loves painting, doesn't drink, promotes exercise, and then the other person smokes, hit his wife, has mistresses, lives a very unhealthy lifestyle. Which one would you want to be friends with? And it's usually the first person, right? But that's Hitler, and the other one's Winston Churchill. So just because you have a clean resume doesn't necessarily mean you're a good influence to people. And just because you commit a crime doesn't mean you're incapable of creating great music like Michael Jackson.
Can I? One final. Oh, you was going to do it? Okay. I was going to even look at it from another side of the coin, where how much do we? Okay, let's say I'm a friend of you or yourself who created really bad things. I've done bad things. Now people looking at me and saying, how can you associate yourself with this person? And this is somebody for years.
Right, way back.
Or you might be in a church and they're thinking, because I know when my church, we have gone through challenges, and people say to me, how can you still go to that church? These are the church that does X, Y, and Z. And then you have to kind of question your values to say, where does your values lie? Is it because of what other people have done? Or, it's because you have a bigger, greater mission to accomplish?
I think Jesus, like in all things in life, is a great example of what you should do and shouldn't do. He had friends who were prostitutes. He had friends who were thieves. He had friends who were the worst of the worst of society. And he stuck by them through and through. And I think our job is not to judge anybody.
Even to death, isn't it? Because Judas, he knew that he's still stuck.
But you don't have to, it's not your job to judge them. Your job is to love them and be a good influence on them as you can be. And that's it.
There are moments for boundaries, though. I do have to say, there are situations in which you need boundaries. You need to know, especially if you're vulnerable, especially if you're young. I agree 100% with what you said, but there are moments that call for boundaries.
And there's definitely boundaries, and also not just boundaries, but being able to tell somebody else about whatever it is that's going on, and not be silent because that person's maybe a pastor, an elder, or somebody prominent. Because a lot of the stuff, even with the R. Kelly situation, was because he was so prominent that people didn't feel like anyone would believe them, or it just seemed like, they had to keep it quiet. A lot of them felt that they had to keep it quiet because of that. So I think there's lessons to be learned from that. There's boundaries to be held, but also be able to speak up, regardless of how much power or how much influence that person has. Please do speak to them about it.
Just to say though, love is not soft.
No, it's not.
Love is love.
100%.
Love means being honest,
100%.
and being upfront and saying when things are wrong.
100%.
So love is not, I'll accept it for whatever you do. No. Love is, look, I love you, but
this is what's going on.
So
consequences, boundaries.
Jesus is like, you have sinned, but I love you.
Don't say no more.
Don't say no more. You say things how they are. It doesn't mean free for all. You have to be loving in the very best way of loving. And true love is the one that holds you accountable.
100%. On that note, guys, thank you for joining me. I'm really looking forward to the next one. Honestly, love this. This is amazing. Yes, thank you for listening, everybody. As always, if you've got any comments, any suggestions, and things that you might want to talk about, or anything you want us to explore even more, let us know and make your comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And thank you for watching the IN2G Show. Bye-bye.